Welcome once again to Jazz Lockdown, the program that puts our regular panelists of Pete Long, Alan Barnes and Alex Garnett to the test. You are invited to donate as little as £1 towards each show, which will be equally divided between the contributors, with 50% of the total amount going towards the Macmillan Cancer Support, by following the PayPal link below. Chaired by Alan Shipton, this week's special guest is Bruce Adams.
Well, welcome everyone to the second edition of the Jazz Lockdown. We have our regular panel. So we have Pete Long. We have Alan Barnes.
Hello.
We have Alex Garnett.
Hello.
And we have our very special guest for this edition, Bruce Adams.
Hi, folks.
So let's do what we normally do and just have a little introductory round to get into a little bit of conversation about things. So, Pete, I thought we'd start with your band that was called Gillespiana.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I remember on some of your early concerts with that band playing such pieces as Two Bass Hit. You had a quartet called Pogo and played the bass for you.
Jim Richardson,
Yes.
who's just come out of hospital again.
Hey.
Yeah, he's had an op on his gentleman's area, but he seems to be doing all right.
Very glad to hear
Well,
he's okay. Was
yeah.
that band, that was a good fun band, I thought, for a while.
That was great fun, but I could never get it any work. It was a strange thing. He'd bring people out and say, do you want to book this big band? It does Dizzy Gillespie's pad. Oh, well, what's the gimmick? Well, it's really good. Oh. From then, I could never really sell it to anyone. I think we did about 3 gigs, but it was the best band I've had that never really worked.
Yeah, well, I think I was at 2 of those gigs, so it was great. Anyway.
I know, it's 66% of the output. Thank you for coming.
Anyway, let's move on. Alan,
Yeah.
now you've toured a lot with your show based on Dickens' Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
Which other British jazz musician created a suite based on Dickens in 1963?
That'd be John Dankworth, the What the Dickens suite.
It was indeed.
Yeah, and I remember the track that I always remember is it Do the Boys Hall, where I think it was Bobby Wellins, Dick Morrissey, Tubby, I think. were the
Tubby,
three.
yeah.
Yeah. Was there another tenor on that track?
Tony Coe.
Tony Coe, thank you. And yeah, I listened to that again recently.
It's a regular on Jazz Record Request. People always ask for it about twice a year. And that track, Other Boys Hall, is the one that always seems to pop up.
Yeah. The thing is, if I called the pieces in the Dickens Christmas Carol abstract piece 1 to 10, nobody had come. But if you call it one of them Tiny Tim, things like that,
Yeah, well, you want to call them abstract piece 1 to 10 written by Dizzy Gillespie, and you're really onto a winner there.
I'm just trying to give Pete a little tip here.
Anyway, Alex,
Oh, sorry.
Go on.
your turn now. So if I asked you, in your opinion, which was the year that shaped jazz,
Yeah,
you might have an opinion on that.
well, it's supposed to be 1959, approximately.
Yeah, and I think you had a show on that at one stage, didn't you? Or did some concerts based on the year that shaped jazz?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, I think as far as the British jazz calendar is concerned, there was a big hoo-ha about it because of the sort of start of what was to be the legacy that is Ronnie Scott's Club in 1959 in Gerrard Street, although obviously it moved over to Frith Street in 65. But yeah, 1959 was the year that was, apparently. It was to reshape jazz, although they included in that, I think that amongst the top 6 sort of record releases of 1959, Giant Steps, which actually was recorded in 59 but wasn't released until 1960.
I think we'll get away with that. Discographers always disagree about this stuff. Do we have the year of recording or the year of release? But
Well, I think it was recorded in two halves, Giant Steps, with a band that half of it wasn't released until a lot later on as some outtakes, and then he re-recorded it in I think in December, so it wasn't released until 1960. But anyway, yes, I mean, amazing to think that all of those albums like Time Out and Mingus' Artum and Shape of Jazz to Come and Giant Steps particularly contain so much blues music, considering it was supposed to be where music has sort of turned a corner and reached a new zenith, A lot of them all based on blues, really.
Including another one that came out that year called All Blues, I suppose.
Well, of course, yeah.
Track. Anyway, now it's Bruce's turn. So, Bruce, what was unusual about the bass used by the musician on your album, As Sure As You're Born?
Unusual about
Well,
the bass.
it might have a little extra something.
Yeah, well, that was Leon. No, Sure As You're Born.
Lives in France at the moment.
Yeah, of course, that's right. Spike Heatley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spike's out there. Unusual. Well, he's a great bass player. I wouldn't say anything unusual about Spike. Not that you could mention a program. But I mean, yeah, he lives in France. I think he retired too early to France.
Yes, he did keep coming back and playing with our guest on the last edition of this.
That's right. They app toured with him. But that was basically all he was doing. He moved to a part of France that there's really nothing happening, unfortunately.
There's nothing happening in any of France at the moment. But,
no, I know. I agree entirely. But Brittany, if you want to play jazz, Brittany's probably about the worst region because their big thing is Breton folk music. It's the biggest Celtic festival in the world. And so I think Spike probably, he moved to a lovely area, but it's a bit of a jazz desert.
the thing I was after, actually, Bruce, is the fact that on that record he's playing a 5-string bass.
I didn't even notice.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't even notice.
So he goes to a top C, does it?
Goes down to a bottom C.
A bottom C.
Because of it's not
You know,
a-
I don't even remember that.
Bottom C string, not a B string.
That's when you have the extension, isn't it?
Yeah, you could do that with an ordinary 4-string bass. You have a little extension.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's got the
before we-
string on it too. Wow.
yeah. Anyway, let's move on. This is the round called Old Stuff, and appropriately, we're going to start with Alan. We're going to say which great American clarinet and saxophone player first came to London with Will Marion Cook's Southern Syncopated Orchestra.
I would think that was Sidney Bechet.
Was indeed, and for your bonus question, what did he buy in a London music shop that became essential to his image and sound?
He bought, I believe it was his first soprano sax.
Absolutely right.
I think it was 59 Wardour Street was where he bought it. Is that right? Come on, Alan.
I'd have to look at Mr. Chilton's book.
He's going for the half again. He's going for the half points.
That could be a retrospective half point.
Right.
Pete, it's your turn. So, which famous record producers who later worked on the other side of the Atlantic first heard Duke Ellington in London in 1933?
Oh, Jesus.
Big clue in the question. Where did they work?
On the other side of the Atlantic. I really have no idea. I'm gonna have to say...
Ahmet and Nesuhi Ertegun, who founded Atlantic, were the sons of the Turkish ambassador to London, and they went to hear Duke at London Concerts.
Yeah, so they weren't English. They were right. So,
But they heard him in London.
oh well, there we are.
Well, I'll give you a second question then. Which British band leader wrote about jazz, particularly Ellington, for Melody Maker under the pseudonym Mike? And he also led a band here and in New York.
I don't know this.
You better tell us then, Alan.
Well, he had a name in common with Mr. Heatley.
It was Spike Hughes.
Spike Hughes.
Thank you. Right.
Bonus point for Alan. God, I thought you know those ones, Pete. It's all Ellingtonian.
They're the only two minute atoms in my otherwise untrammeled wall of knowledge.
They're the two things we kept from him.
So, Bruce, your turn now.
Yeah.
I wonder if you know which female vocalist first came to London in Lou Leslie's Blackbirds of 1928, having just recorded before she left New York a very successful wordless number with Duke Ellington.
Adelaide Hall.
Absolutely right. And Adelaide recorded I Can't Give You Anything But Love from that Blackbird show a little later in London with which jazz organist?
Jazz organist. Was it Fats Waller?
It was indeed. Well done. 2 points to you. Alex,
Yes, sir.
which pianist came to London from New York in 1948 and recorded a bebop record called The Man from Minton's with Jack Fallon and Norman Burns? It's a slightly trick question.
I don't know.
George Shearing.
Oh my gosh. Did he now?
Yeah, he'd emigrated the previous year, but he came back because he had to honour his Decca contract.
It's from Clapham. Yeah.
Thinking of George, I wonder if you happen to know what the theme tune was of the Claude Bampton All Blind Band in which he played with Carlo Kramer. It's about his favourite story, so I thought you might have heard that one.
No, I also don't know.
Anybody else?
I'll be seeing you.
Nearly. I'll see you in my dreams.
All right.
Right, let's move on to new stuff. So we start this one. This is a Gillespiana-related question for you, Pete.
Oh.
So which two brothers were in the trumpet section of Dizzy's 1940s big band who were the sons of a famous trumpeter with Cab Calloway who, like them, specialised in high note and lead playing?
Oh man, that was I've got it on the tip of my tongue.
You might be right.
Was it Dave and somebody else Burns?
No, I just gave you a very big surname clue there and you didn't pick it up.
The Wrights, I don't know. There were
That's
two,
the
Elman
Wright
and
brothers.
somebody Wright, the Wright brothers.
Yeah, half a mark for Elman. Anybody know who the other one was? Same
Eugene.
name.
No, not Eugene, right?
No, same name as his dad.
Oh,
Lamar Wright.
Lamar, that's it, yeah.
Right. So when
Right.
Dizzy's, this kind of relates to your earlier remarks about Gillespiano. When Dizzy's big band played its first concert in the Salle Pleyel in Paris, February the 20th, 1948, they'd been stuck at customs at the Gare du Nord for an hour. And what was unusual about the event which got them a standing ovation before
they
they
played the whole
even played?
concert with no music.
Absolutely right. Well done.
So, yeah, played it from memory.
Because the charts got stuck in that customs delay and never made it to the
Listen
Salle
to the
Pleyel.
records of that gig. He doesn't have to draw them out a long time. So they didn't do the full program of 25 numbers. They did about 6, but they still did it all from memory.
They did, and they did things like Things to Come, which is not the easiest one to do from memory.
No. Well, when you say that, I mean, something that might make Things to Come easier to play from memory is you'd have to practice it so much. So you'd have had to internalize it a bit to play it. So it might have made it paradoxically easier to learn, though harder to play.
Could be true. Right, Bruce, your turn now.
Yep.
I know you worked once upon a time with comedian Tony Hancock. Do you know which Australian jazz composer wrote the score for his film The Punch and Judy Man?
Australian jazz composer.
Yeah, well, he taught composition in London, then went back to Australia, but he's mainly known for writing jazz material.
It's a shot in the dark here. It's not Graham Collier.
I think Graham Collier wasn't Australian, but
Right.
no, it's Don Banks.
Right, I didn't know that.
Well, let's see how you do with this one. When your one-time colleague, saxophonist Bill Fanning, started his career and played 4 nights a week with Jimmy Colquhoun and Paisley, what was his day job?
He was a carpenter. He was the worst carpenter in the world. He actually managed to put a cupboard into a cabin in a ship upside down.
Brilliant. I think you get a bonus point for that one. Right, Alex. Who was a regular member of Roy Hargrove's band when he made a record with you in New York in 2011?
Roy Hargrove. Oh, it was Anthony Wanzi.
You've got a choice of 2.
Willie Jones the third.
Yeah, half a point for that.
Damn.
Well, my next question is actually about Anthony Wanzi.
Okay.
I wondered if you knew which veteran member of the Louis Armstrong Orchestra of the 30s, who lived to be 95, took him on to study jazz when Anthony was a teenager.
Can't answer that.
Anybody else know? He was a great trumpeter in Louis' big band.
Ooh.
And he always comes up in jazz quizzes because his name begins with one of those letters of the alphabet that nobody else's does.
Could be an X, isn't it? Or a Z.
Just- It's a Z.
A Z.
Ziggy.
Nope. Think about
Zebediah.
Xavier Cugat.
it. I'll put you out of your misery. It's Zilner Randolph.
Oh, no way.
But he was actually, it was funny, he was one of the big jazz tutors in the New York area at one point. He left Chicago and he taught Anthony Wanzi.
Ah.
Thought it was really interesting. Anyway, Alan, which festival in the Peak District did you play with Humph that also had on the bill the Great Ellingtonians with Bill Berry, Buster Cooper and Marshall Royal, and Jimmy and Jeannie Cheetham?
I think, was that Hayfield Jazz Festival?
It was indeed.
Yes.
And which singer used to run it?
Oh, Christ, I should know that, shouldn't I? I really, oh, hang on a minute.
If she's watching from Scandinavia, she won't be very happy about that.
Oh, she lives in Scandinavia, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not Karen Krog, is it? She wouldn't run that. Crikey.
Anybody else know who used to run the Hayfield Festival?
Nope. Singer.
Singer.
Is she Scandinavian?
No.
No.
Did she sing with her husband on piano?
Yes.
Is it the Pendleberries?
No. Actually, he played bass, not piano.
Oh,
And they had a guest house in Hayfield.
God knows.
Sheila Collier.
Oh, right. Yes. And the Smokehouse Jazz Band, wasn't it?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we come to a round now where our special guest, Bruce,
Yep.
is up against the other special guests in the series. So Art Thiemann scored 7 on this round. So let's see how you do. So
Right.
which television show presenter's catchphrase was, "I mean that most sincerely, folks"?
Oh, Huey Green.
Right.
Yeah.
And what relevance to you has that program Opportunity Knocks?
Well, I won it in 1965. I beat Keith Harris, the ventriloquist, and a group of Ukrainian Cossack dancers from Bradford.
Sounds like an easy win to me.
By 23 votes.
Oh, and what were you doing?
Yeah. Well, that's, you'd like to know. No, yeah, I played When You're Smiling in Georgia in a medley.
Fantastic. Actually, funny enough, I think Georgia was one of the numbers that Ian and Mike Carr played when they went in for one of those talent competitions back in the 50s.
Wow.
That would be
I know it was Carol Levis.
Carol Levis. Yeah, he ended up, he went mad on air. And they actually
Happens to us all.
They actually had to shut him down. He said, "I'm going to bring the star of heaven himself, Jesus Christ." And it was before it was recorded. And he just had to throw the switches, and they ended up at there's a lunatic asylum up in Barnet, and that's where he ended up. There you go.
Oh.
Useless trivia. Nothing to do with jazz, but useless trivia.
Well, I think you got a half point for that.
Yeah.
Now, which hamster-eating comedian did you work for?
Well, Freddie Starr. Yeah. Not my greatest moment, but there you go.
And going on about vocalists and thinking not about Sheila Collier, but which Scottish vocalist hosted the Glasgow Jazz Festival jam sessions and found success with the Clyde Valley Stompers?
Oh, Fiona Duncan.
Right. And now we get into your specialist area. Selma made just 30 copies of a particular large bore balanced trumpet named after and used by a
Louis
particular
Armstrong. Louis Armstrong.
There was another one that they did as well, just a little later.
Ah, would that be Harry James?
It would.
Yeah.
And Harry later switched to using a trumpet made in a factory in East Lake, Ohio, who also made a balanced model for him that wasn't on sale to the general public. They only made 30 of them again. Which firm was it?
That was King.
Correct. If you had a dog's toy called the Jolly Ball Tug and Toss, what use would it be to you?
Sorry, run that past me again. I was looking at Alan's face.
It's called the Jolly Ball Tug and Toss.
Yeah. What would they do with it?
Yeah.
I I think it's self-explanatory. The dog would have one end, I'd have the other.
I had discovered on one of the brass playing websites that if you cut them in half, they make two of the best plunger mutes in the business.
Right. I've got to get one.
Well, there you go. The Jolly Ball Tug and Toss. Still
Right.
on sale. Right. We're only half a point behind Art, so you're very close. Right. The quickfire round. This is the... Oh, no, we have the picture round to come.
Oh.
So we always have pictures. Now, here is the trumpet section of a well-known band. I wonder if anybody can give us the name of the three trumpeters concerned.
Well, it's Rex Stewart this end.
Yep. Half a point for you.
All right. Harry Edison in the middle.
Nope.
I can't actually see it. I'm right over it. There we are.
I recognise that guy in the middle.
Yep, he came here in 1961 and he toured Europe in 1961.
Bill Coleman.
No. He was the number 2 trumpeter in Buck's band.
Oh, God.
Is that Joe Newman?
No. And the one on the other side with the big eyebrows I always think is very recognisable. High note specialist, played a lot of Latin American music.
Cuban Bennett. Is that
Nope.
I mean, I wouldn't know from the photograph, but I'm just thinking it was maybe Benny Carter's cousin. That was Cuban
It's
Bennett.
a good idea. No, I'm put you out of your misery. The one in the middle is Emmett Berry
Ah, right. Yeah.
and the one on the end is Paul Webster.
Right.
Now,
Who was that?
sorry?
Whose band was it?
That was the Rex Stewart reunion band in 1963.
All right. Have a point.
I just happen to have Rex Stewart's photo album here, so it's just one of those things. Right. This is now Paul Webster also appears in this photograph, but I want to know who the drummer is. Can you see that?
Drummer. I can't really see.
Cab Calloway band. I'll focus in on the drummer. He might.
It's not Nick Fatool, is it?
No.
No.
That does sound a little bit like the plunger mute toy.
That's not Nick Fatool.
Wasn't someone like Hilliard Brown, was it?
No, it's somebody who's known by his initials and then a surname.
Oh.
And he followed Cozy Cole. And he preceded Bruford Oliver.
Hmm.
And he made a record with Charlie Parker, Sir Charles Thompson and Buck Clayton and Dexter Gordon.
Oh.
J.C. Hurd.
Correct.
Yes.
Well done.
I think
Well done.
Right, this one should be easier. Who's this dude?
Anthony Braxton.
Correct. Very good. And this person's name has been mentioned before today. Who's this one?
Oh, God, I know that.
Yeah.
There's a clue in his badge.
Trombonist.
Nope.
All right. He's lead alto with the Basie Orchestra.
Correct.
So,
Not Earl Warren, the other one.
Not Marshall Royale, no.
It is Marshall Royal. Well done, Alex.
Yeah.
Great. Right, now we move to the quick fire round. Now, this is the round where everybody talks over one another. I have no idea who's giving the right answer, so we're going to see how we go. Hands up if you can, if you know the answer first, and then I'll notice, maybe. So, picking up from the previous programme, which fellow saxophonist also often accompanied Clean Ed Vinson to his gigs with Ronnie Scott's in the 80s? Big famous American saxophonist. Played with Eddie Clean Ed Vinson. Mainly played tenor.
George Coleman?
Nope.
Fathead Newman?
Yeah, correct. Well done. And how did he get his nickname?
Had a big head.
Yeah, he was I don't know, self-opinionated.
No, he actually memorised the pad for the school band. So his music teacher gave it to him because he
That's
had
cool.
an amazing memory. Which soul and jazz singer did Newman become the principal soloist for, staying in his band for 13 years?
Rachel. Oh,
Charles.
Yeah, I think Alex just pipped everybody on that one. In 1957 and 61, Ray Charles recorded 2 albums with which Vibes player?
Milt Jackson.
Correct. Can you name either of those albums?
Genius plus something equals soul, is it?
They aren't the 2 that these particular 2 originally came out as.
Oh, I don't know.
I think there are other guests on Genius Plus.
No, Ray Charles with Bags.
No, well, Alan nearly got there. Soul Brothers and Soul Meeting are the 2 of them.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a jolly big clue to the next one. So what was Jackson's nickname?
Right.
I think you all get a point for that one, so I'm not going to add that to everybody. And why did he have that nickname?
Because of his eyes.
Yep, absolutely.
That's a relief.
Who had the nickname Frog owing to his bulging
Ken
eyes?
Webster.
Yeah, I think Pete just squeezed that one in. Webster died in Amsterdam in 1973, but where was he buried?
Harlem.
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen. Well done, Bruce. 6 years later, Copenhagen established its first international jazz festival, which most recently had an attendance of 250,000 people. What was the earliest jazz festival in Britain? And for a bonus point, which year did it start?
It's not Bewley, is it?
Yep, it's Bewley.
That's 1951.
56, I'd say.
You were right.
Ooh.
In 1960 at Bewley, a famous riot occurred between rival jazz fans. Who was actually on stage when it kicked off?
Chris Barber.
Nope.
Ronnie Scott.
Nope. You're very close with your first answer, Alan.
Ackerbilt.
Correct. Yeah, it was Ackerbilk's bowler-hatted beatniks versus the modern fans of the John Dankworth Orchestra.
Yeah. I mean, if in Alex Welsh band, the fight would have been on stage.
I asked Peter King about that because he was playing with the Dankworth band on the Roundabout that year. And I said, what did you do? He said, tried to sit still. Which, this is a risque question, which world-famous rock star reportedly lost his virginity aged 16 after sneaking into the Bewley Jazz Festival?
Is it going to be Bill Wyman or someone like that?
Someone like that, but not that. He's a singer.
Jagger.
Mick Jagger.
Nope. No, not connected with the Stones.
Right.
Rod Stewart.
Correct.
Whoa.
Rod Stewart announced 20 years ago that he was going to turn from jazz to rock after releasing a 5-CD series. What was the name of that set of Rod Stewart albums?
American Songbook, wasn't it?
Yep, absolutely right, Pete.
Great Crimes Against Music.
In 1965, Rod Stewart was a member of a band called the Steam Packets. For a point each, can you name any of the other members of that band?
Long John Baldry.
Yep.
Eric Clapton.
Nope. Think of an organist.
Brian Auger.
Yep. And if he was there, who else was there at that stage?
Graham Bond.
Graham Bond.
Nope.
Julie London. No, Julie Driscoll.
Correct. 3 more to get. Who were in the Steam Packet?
Oh.
Is it Herbie Flowers or someone?
I was just thinking that.
That's a good thought, but no.
Not that drummer who played with John Mayall.
Mickey Waller.
Yep. Who said that first?
Alex.
Right.
He gave me a clue.
Was it Jack Bruce on bass?
No, I'm going to give you the other 2 members of the band. They were Vic Briggs and Ricky Fenson.
Oh, wouldn't have got those.
No.
So, talking about Mickey Waller, which jazz club did he frequent in London up to the time?
Bull's Head. Yeah.
I think Alex got that one in first.
Always
And
had
think
to
about-
lift home.
Thinking about Julie Driscoll, who did she marry? And changed her name to a plural version of his.
Oh my God.
He played the piano.
Jazz piano player.
Yep.
Who was there?
He also worked with a number of rock bands.
Oh.
And
I haven't a clue. Actually, that's from program.
I'm going to give you this one. It was Keith Tippett.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Now, do anybody know the name of his 50-piece orchestra, which Centipede, Dan? I was going to say, which had its own plane provided by RCA.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There were 6 bass players in Centipede, one of whom began his career at Ronnie Scott's Club working with Tubby Hayes. Who was that?
Jeff Klein?
Yep. And for 2 points, what was Jeff's middle name?
Andrew?
Nope.
Hamish?
Nope.
Sebastian?
Nope.
D.
Think more classical.
Arthur?
No.
Ludwig.
No, I don't think we're going to get there.
Homer?
When I said classical, that's closer. Ovid.
Ovid?
Ovid.
Yeah, never would have known that.
So, 2 more questions and we're through with today's. But Ronnie Scott's Club began its life in a basement in Gerrard Street, as Alex mentioned earlier, close to where it is now. But what was the business in Gerrard Street on the floor above?
It's got to be a bookies, isn't it?
Is it minicabs?
Chinese restaurant?
Chinese restaurant is correct. And what was that basement used for prior to becoming a jazz club?
It was
The foggiest.
It was a cab office.
Boredom.
Absolutely. It was a cab office and tea room for cab drivers.
Ah, bored.
Well, that's an interesting thing. So today's, we've got Sir Bruce and Pete have exactly the same score with 4.5 points each.
Good.
Alex has 5.5 points and Alan has 16.5 points.
There's no clear winner then.
no clear winner.
No clear winner.
And Bruce, you are, as I said, you're just 1 point behind Art Thiemann, so you have 6 on the guest star challenge.
Ah, well, brilliant.
Anyway, thanks everybody very much. I hope those questions weren't too tough today, and look forward to the next round. So thank you very much from Alex Garnett, from Pete Long,
Hello.
from Alan Barnes,
Bye-bye.
and from our special guest, Bruce Adams.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Now make that bed.
That was Jazz Lockdown, a series of 6 programs devised by Clark Tracy and presented by Alan Shipton, with Pete Long, Alan Barnes, and Alex Garnett, with special guest Bruce Adams. You are invited to donate as little as £1 towards each show, which will be equally divided between the contributors, with 50% of the total amount going towards Macmillan Cancer Support, by following the PayPal link below. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to your company next time.